Alright, we're back for another Guru's Rant. A lot of friends and students and Silat fans and folks that just like to train are catching on to these and enjoying these. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to these, and I hope you find the information informative, and I hope you find that the information will help you become better in whatever aspect of training you're doing. That way you become better at whatever you want to achieve. So, today's first rant, got a lot of ranting. Well, it's actually fun. Today's first rant is about the differences in Pentjak Silat of the old days and Pentjak Silat of today. And I've been doing Silat for, this is my 18th year, and I can tell you what I've noticed in 18 years of seeing things from the west and then seeing people from the east. When I started Silat in Indonesia, what you saw and what was available online and things like that, you saw a lot of what they call Olahraga. Okay, Olahraga is the sport, and there was a lot of Silat that looked like karate and taekwondo and looked like one-point kickboxing, much like we saw in the United States with karate when karate first started becoming competitive, mainly in the kids divisions, because the old school karate still had full contact fighting. So what you saw there was that. And I remember at that time there wasn't a lot of Silat, and the only options you had in the United States and in the world pretty much was the Detwars family of Silat and Kuntao, and you had Bukti Negara as well from Uncle Paul. So the Sirak and the Kuntao from Uncle Willem, from Pak Vic Detwars, his Sirak, Uncle Maurice's Sirak. And then you had in Holland other styles of Silat and whatnot. But even the Silats in Holland were mixed a lot with Kempo and karate. So in America, you also had the Willie Wetzel line and the Wetzel family, and you had the William Reeder's line and William Reeder's family. So I would say that those three lines were prominent in bringing Silat here. I don't know of the dates, but I can tell you that in the Detwars family, the first person to bring actual Silat and Kuntao and Sirak to the Americas was Babak Willem Detwars. After Babak arrived, he helped sponsor his brother Paul and his brother Victor to come from Holland. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know the fact that Willem was actually teaching Sirak back in the late, I want to say early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, all the way into the 70s and 80s. So that's that history, and this will help you understand things a little bit. The Detwars family, they always kept their Silat based on survival and fighting, because they're the Dutch Indo community. The Dutch Indo community were not accepted by the Dutch, and they were not accepted by the Indonesians. And a lot of them suffered crisis through World War II. So the Silats that they have are very much a snapshot or a time capsule of what Silat was like back prior to World War II. And society and times were different. Things were more dueling, there was more fighting. You had the Jagos. The Jagos were the fighters that worked for the Dutch military or Dutch police, and they would go around town fighting people, and they would be like the policing or the security in the villages. So it's a lot different than today. After World War II, a lot of these Dutch Indos left Indonesia And a lot of Indonesians left Indonesia. A lot of the real Silat left. And a lot of it ended up in Holland, in South Africa, in Suriname, in South America, and in America. And also Hawaii, California, and Colorado. And those Silats kept things like it was part of World War II. Very combative and very survival oriented. Okay? Somehow Silat became connected to religions, right? And then you had a big influence from Islam in the Silat of Indonesia now. And even today, it's a big thing. So, you know, they do things where they don't touch the face. It's disrespectful because of Islam. And they tend to be more respectful in that respect. However, in the art of fighting and the science of combat, there's no room for religion. There's only room for what works and what doesn't work. There's no room for having faith in something. You have to test it out. And somehow, there was an organization called IPSI that came about. And IPSI was like a board or a federation or a board of directors that decided upon what they were going to call their Indonesian martial art after World War II. This was sometime in the 50s, actually, when this happened. It might have been 1956 or something like that. Again, I don't have the dates off the top of my head. I'm driving, I'm in traffic. But this is a general story that'll help you do your own research, which is what's important. So IPSI came about. They were like a federation, right? And they wanted to keep the heritage of Pentjak Silat alive. So they gave it the name Silat. And that's where the name Silat was born, which we talked about in another video. Silat comes from an Islamic term, Shahada, Ibadah, Laku, Akidah, Taqwa. It's an acronym, okay? But it also has a root in China, Silate, which is the Ponjate Silate. And if you do more research about that, you find that one of the greatest Pukulan masters that ever lived, Hang Tuah, who migrated into Malaysia, was Chinese. And his style was Southern boxing, Southern fist boxing, Southern Shaolin. So, again, that just shows you that there's no pure Silat per se. Anyhow, this band of Federation IPSI, they began to hold tournaments, and they began to use Silat as a way to do PE or physical education in schools and high schools and kids. And you started now getting, you know, all the elementary schools had a Silat program, you know, much like soccer in South America. You had the kids that learned soccer in the streets, and then you had the kids that would go train in leagues. Well, IPSI became a league of Silat for the purpose of tournaments and the purpose of entering tournaments to obviously get rewards and things like that. And what happens, or what happened over time, is the youth didn't want to do the hard training of the pre-World War II Silat. Instead, they wanted the trophies and the fancy gis and the belts and the whole thing, just like in karate. And just like you have in the US, you have like Little Dragons programs, you know. Jokingly, when we would teach martial arts, the instructors would call them the little fuckers. But actually, teaching martial arts to children is great, and they should learn. My opinion is little Johnny should not get a black belt in 2 weeks at the strip mall McDojo. Little Johnny should put his time in working with a real teacher for 10 years and have that teacher turn him into a true badass. That's what martial arts should be for kids. Not just bully-proof, but prepared for life. And that'll be a whole other video. I'll talk about that. I know I'm kind of all over the place right now. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet, and traffic sucks. So back to IPSI. So IPSI creates this federation, and people are now doing tournaments. And the younger kids are starting to watch, you know, K1 fighting and UFC and MMA, and they're starting to watch, you know, karate tournaments and whatnot. So they kind of modeled it after this stuff. And you see them, you know, they're wearing the traditional garb and they do like point sparring and whatnot. So for years, people in the US and in Europe were like, well, where's the real Silat? You know, I had friends that went to Indonesia and they traveled the entire country, and they come back and I'm like, oh man, did you see Sarak? Did you see real Harimau? Did you see real Chimande? And this was back in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. And they're like, no, didn't see any of it. You know, everything looked like karate and taekwondo. So that led me to believe at that time that everything you need is in your own backyard. You don't necessarily need to go to Indonesia or Malaysia to become a Silat teacher or become a Silat man or player, right? And my teachers would say it. You know, I remember hearing Uncle Bill Detoire saying Silat was dead for a long time in Indonesia. And the only reason now you see a resurgence of it is because now they got hip to the fact that people in the West were making money with Silat doing seminars. So now the Indonesians are like, hey, wait a minute, we can cash in on this too. So, to answer your question, is there real Silat in Indonesia and Malaysia? Yeah, I think there is. I think there's always been. It's been kept hidden from the public. It's been kept, sorry, somebody's calling me. It's been kept hidden from the public. It's been kept isolated from the Westerners and the non-Islamic. Again, like I said, a lot of religious stuff, dogma kind of leached itself into Silat. So if you were not Islamic, they wouldn't teach you Chimande. If you were not Islamic, they wouldn't teach you what they had was real, so to speak. And I think in some villages, the real stuff still exists. You can still find real Silat in some places in Sumatra, some places in Garut, in Java, in the island of Madura, you can find some stuff. Java, where you find really good stuff, interestingly enough, they call it Kuntao, and it's from the Chinese. And if you look at Sarak and you analyze Sarak, and you go through and analyze all the Silats out there, you'll find very similar things to Lian Parukan, which is a Chinese Pukulan from Malaysia. You'll find similar things in Chinggrik in Java. In Jakarta, you'll find another style. I can't remember the name right now, but it'll come to me. They have motions that look a lot like hand motions that you find in Sarak, where it's very Juru-oriented, a lot of hand motion forms. And you see that in this style, Pukulan Betawi, that's it, Kuntao Betawi. And what's interesting though, you also see it in some of the old Chimande, but you look at some of the modern Silats, none of it looks like Sarak, none of it looks like the kind of Silat we're used to in the West. So that has to raise an eyebrow for you as you research history and find out what's going on here. So anyhow, I know this video is kind of long. We're going to cut it up here. I'm going to stop you, and we'll do part 2 later on. Bye-bye.